Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
You are listening to the Chet Bruce Authority Report, and I am your host, Chet Bruce. I'm glad to have you here today. It is a fact that most professionals and small business owners are doing a very poor job of communicating with their prospects. It is my true belief that a consumer needs to know far more about the people and businesses that they rely on for help. This show is all about being a consumer advocate. We interview professionals and small business owners who freely give consumers the information they need to make informed decisions.
We have a very special guest with us here today, Mr. Greg Lawlor. Greg is a very successful real estate developer who for years has worked in the San Diego area, more specifically Del Mar. Now, if you've ever been to the racetrack there, you notice those white, very Greek island-looking condos on the side of the hill that overlook the racetrack. You'll see one of his developments. Greg's now retired, but he has a very interesting hobby that we're going to talk about today, just a little bit later. And that hobby deals with handicapping horses. So, Greg, I'm very happy to have you here today.
Delighted to be with you, Chet.
All right, cool. Now, before we get into your hobby, I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about you and about your real estate development, how you got into it, a little bit about your history so that folks out there in Radioland will get to know a little bit about you before we dig into the really tough questions.
Okay, fair enough. Back in 1970, I believe, 69, this very good friend of mine said, I've got an associate who found a piece of property in North San Diego County near Del Mar. And, of course, having not been in the real estate business before, I'd been in the property management business before I launched into real estate. I came down and looked at the property, and there was vacant property on the ocean. I thought, they're not making any more ocean on the West Coast, so this looks like a real opportunity. Making a long story short, we ended up buying as much of the land as we could that was along the shoreline, the bluff line, if you will, in Solana Beach, just north of Del Mar, and began building. And over the course of several years, we built about 400 apartments, condominiums, I should say. And that launched my real estate career.
Well, cool. And we're not going to ask you you told us when it started, so we can figure it out how old you are. But we won't go any deeper into that category, okay? But all right, now, what I really want to talk to you about is your hobby, handicapping horses, okay? How long have you been handicapping horses?
Well, my dad was a big racetracker. We lived about 2 miles from the San Diego racetrack for several years, and I used to go to the races with him from time to time and then with my buddies. But I was always like the crowd. I was always favorites. Of course, you do that and you're going to consistently lose. So for years I would go to the racetrack, but I would never have any confidence in what I was doing. 1981, when I had some downtime on my computer in my real estate office, so I hired a gal to enter the the past performances of all the horses over a 7-year. So I created a 7-year database essentially.
Wow,
and decided
that was a lot of work, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, but
you must have been slow in the office.
Well, I'll tell you, it was a fun time because I found a software programmer who took the data, because I decided to selection the horses I was going to people, so I decided to focus on the trainers instead of the horses, and came up with 35 or 40 trainer patterns that people now see in the racing form at the bottom of the past performances, such things as first-time starters, layoffs, distance changes, surface switches, that sort of thing. And And from that day forward, I've not had a losing year. So it's been a highly productive time frame for me, and discovered the value of the human element in handicapping.
Okay, so you mentioned that that's not the normal way that most people handicap horses. Can you tell me a little bit, educate me just a little bit, and tell me how the normal person, what they look at when they're handicapping?
Well, everybody has a different methodology of handicapping horses. I'm not sure how the others do it, because I don't pay much attention to them. But I do know that they don't have a real firm grasp of all the aspects of handicapping. They're a very small percentage of people that make a profit at the racetrack. I've been told it's something like 3%, because they just don't have a complete understanding of the total handicapping process that one must go through to learn to be analytical in the evaluation of the chances of horses winning races.
So the professional handicapper looks at a lot of data. Is that what I hear you telling me?
Absolutely, and what they do is they develop their own analytical tools that they use using various services that are provided that give them the data and the information so they can more comprehensively learn how to understand, evaluate, and to narrow down their choices. As you know, most, even the best handicap choices, only win about 30-35% of all the races. But because they confine their selections to horses that are, quote, overlays, they can make a profit. And, of course, rebates help as well.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of scary for somebody that's not smart enough to look at all. I've looked at the charts that they put out, and there's all I see is a bunch of numbers. So, but Greg, one of the things I want to talk to you about, dealing in regarding your history as a handicapper. You mentioned to me one time that you were in a handicapping contest here locally.
Yeah, back a few years ago in Del Mar, there was a Friday, they called it Cool Fridays. A fellow by the name of Felix Taverna, who has a radio show, sponsored a contest, handicapping contest, every Friday afternoon, and he brought together 8 different duos or handicappers that were the local professionals, the guys that do the handicapping for the Racing Forum, the Digest, and the public newspapers around the Southern California market. So we competed against guys like John Lindo and Bob Ike, Toby Terrell, a clocker, and then a couple of the jockeys' agents, the guys at the insiders, if you will, in the industry locally.
Some pretty big guns, right?
Yeah, they were all the heavyweights, the guys that really were supposed to be the experts in the, and they are the experts in the handicapping arena here in Southern California. And so Jerry Okanoff and I, a gentleman who's also a regular player, we competed. And make a long story short, on the final day, we were at the Del Mar racetrack and handicapping that card, and we ended up winning. By us winning the last race, turned out to be the winning selection on that day. So that was pretty exciting for us. We got little trophies for our efforts, and we were very happy campers, needless to say.
That's cool. Now, tell me about the National Handicapping Conference that took place, I think you said in Las Vegas?
Yeah, several years ago we sponsored a national handicapping conference in Las Vegas, bringing together all of the noted authorities, the authors, and the handicappers from around the country, and had a 3-day session up at the Mirage Hotel, which was the hotel at the time, the newest hotel at the time, and had a great number of entrants from around the country. Brought in Tom Ainsley, who was the pioneer in the handicapping business, as our keynote speaker, and very successful 3 days. We had a total of about 400 people that flew in from around the country to take part in the conference. And then as a result of that, we ended up marketing the audio and videotapes subsequently through the Daily Racing Forum. So it was a very successful project, and it has been duplicated since a couple of times since that time, because there's so many more guys now that are part of the trend in handicapping, which is the handicapping contests. As you may know, there's now $1 million purse for the best handicapper in the country that's awarded every year in January. And so it's become a big deal for people to understand the professional aspect of horse racing from many, many different points of view. And it's a way for the handicapper to really learn all he needs to know and what areas where he feels it's important for his handicapping success.
Tell me about this this new area that somebody told me that you were going into. What do you call it? You call it body language?
Yes. Back in the late '80s, since I was involved in the hobby of handicapping, I developed a number of videos. The first one I found was the Body Language of the Racehorse book, produced by Bonnie Ledbetter and Tom Ainsley, the pioneer of the handicapping business really in the United States. And I contacted her, and we made an arrangement, and we went to Del Mar, and we filmed a complete day, actually 2 days, of just watching the horses in the paddock and post-parade, and she narrated a 1-hour video that we produced and sold over the course of the years, several thousand of these to the gaming public. It was an area that even today is probably the last frontier in handicapping, because most people have no knowledge whatsoever about the body language of a racehorse, the things to look for, both positive and negative, in a horse's demeanor. And that will tell you in many cases just how the horse feels, and as a result, how he's going to run. And now, today, the astute handicappers, the visual handicappers, as well as the analytical ones, use body language to perhaps separate and to make their final choices. So it's a very valuable tool that's really timeless in terms of its application, because it can be used 10 years from now, 20 years from now, any racetrack, any country, any venue. It's really a very valuable tool in the overall understanding of how to become productive at the racetrack.
Okay, I think I understand that. I'm kind of feeling here that maybe what you're saying is that a horse, by looking at all of the past performances and all of the other stuff in there, that if he's got a stomachache, he's not going to run very well. Well, just like human beings, you know, we have our good and our bad days. Sometimes we feel great and productive and full of energy, and other times we're just kind of lackluster, and the horse demonstrates those same elements or signs, if you will, of his behavior that will indicate whether or not he's in the mood and feeling good about running against his competition today. Well, isn't that why you say this has been around for a long, long time? Why isn't it more widely known? Well,
as I said, we produced three videos on body language in the late 80s, early 90s, and I just discovered that a few months ago that this hasn't been exposed lately to both the old and the new wagering public. So decided to introduce a training academy series of videos to educate the new players as well as the more seasoned ones on the refinements, aspects, and sophistication of the a very useful tool in the handicapping arsenal.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know, it sounds to me like this would be something that somebody that knew almost nothing about handicapping could use. Is that the case?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I had my grandson and his girlfriend at Del Mar this summer, and they had nothing about handicapping, neither one of them really. As a kid, he and I went to the racetrack up in Washington a couple of times when he was young. He doesn't even remember that experience. But anyway, so I asked her to go out to the patio, the balcony, and watch the post parade, and to tell me the horses she thought looked good as they were parading around the paddock walking ring, and subsequently when they came on the track for the post parade. And she was intrigued and enhanced and excited about the opportunity to learn something about horse racing handicapping. And I asked her for selections on each race, and it was over the course of the day, she became better and better at it, even to the absolute novice eye, and someone who had never even looked at that before. So that was a pretty interesting and enlightening experience for her, I'm sure, because it introduced her to an aspect of horse racing without the tools, if you will, the analytical tools, the racing form and its components. She was able to identify horses that appeared to be ready to run today, which was really very fascinating to me.
So was she successful?
She did pretty well. I have to admit that she was, she didn't look at the odds, which of course is ignorant, but that's just understandable. But she made some pretty good selections. I was following her and looking at the same horses and just acknowledging her recognition of certain positives and negative traits of the horses to the uninitiated eye. So it was pretty fascinating day for me, and I certainly enjoyed it because I didn't tell her that I was involved in this production of this new video series and until afterwards, and that she was pretty fascinated. So she wanted to make sure she got a hold of the material. That was really kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool. So now you call this a training academy. Is this actually a school, or is it just a video that you buy?
No, it's a training. It's a complete training regimen. It's a series of tests. A series of tests that one takes on each aspect of the horse's body language, and the test. You complete the test, and you learn how to read each one of the positive and negative aspects of a horse's body language.
I don't know much about horse racing, but I do know that most horse racing today there's far more done on the internet than there is at the racetrack. Does somebody have to be at the racetrack in order to use this?
No, as a matter of fact, I've done some research with professional player friends of mine and asked them to evaluate the body language. These are gentlemen that I've worked with, and asked them to evaluate their ability to handicap the body language of a racehorse from a satellite or from their computer or from television shows. And they say that it's a very effective tool to use even for satellite and or home viewing over the internet. So it's not restricted strictly to those people who attend the racetrack, because they're a small percentage today, probably 20%, probably 80% of the balance are watching either through satellite or through the internet. So no, it can be used at either place. Obviously, it's better if you're at the racetrack, but certainly very helpful to you even from your home internet.
Okay. Can I get involved? Can I take the course?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I'll connect you off air and get the details on how I get signed up for it. It sounds really, really interesting. Well, Greg, we're up against the time, so I'm going to have to cut it off at this point, but I want to reiterate what a pleasure it is having an old and dear friend sit in on my radio show. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I enjoyed the time with you.
All right. Very cool. Thank you.
Take care.
And for our listeners out there, thank you for stopping in and listening to the Chet Bruce Authority Report. I want to leave you with this thought. Yesterday is gone. There's nothing we can do to change it. Tomorrow is a complete unknown. Today, this moment in time, is all we have. Make the most of it that you can. This is Chet Bruce, along with the entire staff at the Authority Report, saying good night and be safe out there.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.